physical wealth. Hello, hello, hello. It is Monday evening. Oh my goodness, we're already out of May. Can you believe that? It's already June. It's June 3rd, 2024. How you doing this evening? How was your Monday? Was it a fun day? I know I always say Monday fun day when it's morning, but now I've changed into the evening. Now it really is a fun day because I get to get everything out and I can come in the evening and, do my volunteer time here on Erudition Network with the Adroit Living session of the Erudition Network. I volunteer my time here so that I can help contribute positively to the global health crisis that we're enduring right now. We're experiencing a great deal of overwhelming stress, and it's not really being addressed. Well, it wasn't before my show, but thank God it has been improving since my declaration of mental health is physical wealth. Once I put my brand Adroit Living out there, and I really appreciate everybody. Hi, Sean Anthony. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate everyone for contributing to help this show blossom, and it's globally streaming. I really appreciate all the viewers around the world, especially people who don't even know me, but you're tuning in and you're finding this information helpful. I especially appreciate my family and friends and loved ones for continuing to support me, because that can be difficult. That follow through, it's that follow through that sometimes gets us. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little weak on that follow through because a lot of times it's a lot going on. IRL is just really stressful sometimes. So I really appreciate family and friends sticking by my side and continuing to help me to prosper globally as well as nationally and internationally. Hey, little big bro, that's my little big brother right there. I'm checking for you. I'm checking for y'all. Cynthia, everybody. I'm checking for everybody. I'm just really happy that now that I'm really out of the trenches and I'm just waiting for God to, manifest these things in a way that my loved ones can see where all my time went to. And I think right now God is really testing my faith. And as he continues to build my faith, I keep going through some extremely extraordinary problems. So I'm happy that I still get to come on here and share with everybody, because I'm not the only human being going through some problems, political, social, etc. It's problems right now that's really depleting our mental health, and no one was addressing it before I started the Adroit Living session of the Erudition Network, and because of that, mental health was really out of control. It was so much chaos. People were exhibiting far more frequently that they had a lacklusterness for anyone's life, let alone their own. So it's a blessing to be able to come on to this show and volunteer my time and speak out against the decline in mental health, and exhibit to everyone how mental health is physical wealth. Thank you for being here, Eddie. I appreciate it. A lot of times organizations don't understand how individuals' mental health impacts their bottom line, their dollar. And that's why the dissertation that I wrote about in my book, and even period, is so vital to people, because we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of times we're hustling and bustling, and we don't have time to figure out all the intricacies and the details. That's why I made this book, because this book puts everything in a bundle. Teddy, I just dropped my notes. Can you come and help me out? um I take notes because I'm human, and there's so much going on mentally that I can't wing it. I can't wing it. But this book sums it up for the general public. It's only the first layer. Once you purchase this book, you will be directed in the book where you can go and find the additional free information. So that's one of the things I forgot to mention, um, is that there's some free information um, out there already, and I want you to be able to find it. And I couldn't keep going over it on the show and going over it on the show, how you can find it and go back to this video or that video, and you'll see where to find it. It's a whole lot easier to just put it in a book and help you to understand what books to read and what information to read and what information to trust. And that was one of my things about being on this show. I wanted to help people to understand what information to trust. What information do you not know, and what should you know in order to build um, mental health, in order to build wealth? A lot of times we invest and we want to invest, but we don't know where to invest our money. And a lot of times it's like, I don't care how much money you have. A lot of times we want to maximize on our dollar investment. And it's difficult to do that when you can't trust the source. You can't trust who's telling you what to invest in, when, where to pull your money out. So it's messing with our mental health. And as a result of people's mental health decline, internationally, it's not just locally or nationally, it is an international problem. And because of it, we are overall feeling less likely to be able to thrive in this kind of environment. And that's typical. That is the natural response to the global mental health crisis that we're all seeing. Even if you're not enduring it physically yourself, you're living around some people who are having some struggles with their mental health. And you're living around some people who are struggling financially and not feeling like they have the help that they need. It's not just limited to a social class. It's not limited to a culture or a faith. It is international, and it's indiscriminately affecting us all in a different way. But the people who are perpetuating it, who's perpetuating the problem and causing the problem to continue on as if it's fresh and this is what we want, those are the people we need to shed light on and move them from the ability to continue to perpetuate that sort of thing. So I'm really happy that we are acknowledging that, we are seeing it, we are addressing it, and getting people the right sort of help, the right sort of help. And I'm so happy to see that it's not just Tina. It is not just Adroit Living. It's not just the Erudition Network. It is spreading like wildfire. And I am so grateful, grateful, grateful that, the message is getting out there and people are getting help. And it seems like people's mental health is being made more aware to understand that we will benefit greatly, not just physically and mentally, but financially, from helping people to improve their mental health. Now, I'm trying to give people time to get in, so I'm gonna do this icebreaker. I thought about this a while ago, and I was like, I love wearing hats, and I'm like, I'm not wearing my hat. And I saw a hat that I thought was really cool when I purchased it, and I looked back on it, and I was like, why am I not wearing this hat? I remember why I don't wear it. When I was younger, I remember seeing older people wearing things like that, thinking, they think they cool. They think they're cool wearing that. Then I laughed to myself. Now, the older me looks back on the younger me, because I examine myself regularly. And I think to myself, and yeah, I know I'm talking to myself, but I do that sometimes. And I'm like, God darn it, those young people, what do they know? I know I'm talking to myself about myself, but um, no, I'm not crazy. I just, it's just sometimes you reflect on a thought and you're like, find yourself talking to yourself about yourself. Yeah. But anyway, I was like, young people, they don't know nothing. I was today years old when I found out. I mean, that's what they say. So I'm just saying that's what they say. But I was also thinking about pencil erasers. So pencil erasers, that the perspective of them changes over time. You have this pencil, right? I'm gonna show you my pencil. Um, so this is the new pencil, right? And this is the pencil that I've been using for quite some time. And you can see the erasers are pretty much similar because over time my perspective of the erasers changed. I was like, man, I'm erasing and erasing and erasing, and the pencil was still a viable long pencil where the eraser was like not non-existent. It was a mindset. Once I got over the whole, well, I'm gonna just erase and make a big old mess and still try to keep writing over it, cross out it. I said, look, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna acknowledge that I made a mistake. I'm going to start over, even though starting over is difficult. But because it improves my mental health, even though it's going to take me back a little time, because now I've invested time in doing something and now I'm trying to redo it just so it can look neater. But that kind of clarity is something that brings about a certain mental health that is like without it, you still kind of like mentally disturbed by the mess because you can still, despite the eraser, you can still see where you made the mistake. You can still see how things went wrong. And now you have a big old mess and barely an eraser, but a big old pencil left. So you start to get even more frustrated because now it's a reminder of how you made these mistakes. And we don't really consider how much that negatively impacts our mental health. So that goes right into my thought. My first thought was, save the eraser and just stop writing things down, right? But you can't do that. So my next thought was cross things out and try to write over it or whatever. But then again, there was that mess reminder of making mistakes. So as I got older, I learned that, starting over isn't so bad, especially when it's no longer a reminder of what you did wrong. And it's more of a clear perspective of what you're getting right, how you're going in the right direction. And I started saving erasers and pencils, and now it's a healthier balance between the old pencil and the new pencil, um, when you consider the eraser and the length of the pencil. So now I'll run out of pencil long before I run out of eraser, and I feel better about having made the mistake. This goes right along with in this book, chapter 1, where I'm talking about formal logic. Formal logic is a lot like that pencil perspective that I just told you. We we focus on things that a lot of times people may not be able to see, but we know the mess is there. We know it's messy. Have you ever had that situation where you've got a smile on your face and everybody just sees that smile, but there's somebody in the crowd that can discern that something wrong? She's smiling, he's smiling, but something's wrong. And all you can do is walk up to that person, give them a hug, or tell them some encouraging words. And it hit hard. It hit them right to their heart, where it's like, man, I didn't even know anybody could see me. I didn't even know anybody knew. Yeah, some people, when they nourish their formal logic, they're able to see things a lot more clearly, as if that piece of paper where you start over again. That piece of paper, when you start over again, it's because you're accustomed to seeing the mistakes despite what's written over the mistake. Have you ever been in school and you were writing? I used to get on punishments all the time. I don't even know why. It's just the simplest things, and I got to write this down 100 times, write that down 100 times. And I'm like, well, I think I was a little antisocial, and I didn't want to go outside and play with the other kids, because every day you're fighting. You're fighting every day at school, on the playground. Yes, I was at risk schools a great deal of my life, until my mom was like, "Oh, it's a predominantly white school, and they have openings, and let's go there." And I didn't want to go because I really didn't want to fight those kind of battles. It's a difference. It's a difference between fighting the battles that you know versus the battles you have to fight and you don't know. You don't know the process. You don't know what obstacles you're going to have to overcome. It's a difference between just learning how to use a pencil and paper and knowing that if I write it on this piece of paper, I can erase it and I can see my mistakes. If I use this kind of eraser, or I can't see my mistakes. It's a difference. And I didn't want the familiarity of the problems that I was encountering every day to change, even though I really desperately, direly needed it to change, and I wanted it to change. But there was a certain level of comfort in knowing the problem. There was a certain level of comfort in knowing the steps that I'm going to have to go through every day versus the chances that I'm going to take in things being better if I change if I change my environment, if I change the group of people I'm with, if I change or make any kind of changes. And it wasn't necessarily a change as much as it was an improvement. It was an improvement from moving from the at-risk school to a school that was more progressive, or trying to be more progressive. And there we go with the pencil and the paper perspective, where you have a pencil where you like, well, I know what to expect. I know what I'm going to have to do, but do I really want to do it? Or do I just keep going through pencils? Do I just keep going through the same process and being frustrated? Or do I try to start again? A lot of times people don't want to start again because it's not a popular decision. Have you ever had to start over? Was it easy? Was it a popular decision? Start to think of it this way. If I start over, there's a certain amount of information that is going to be the same. And that way I can fix the problems I know and work through the problems that are unknown. And then all I have to do is just say, accept accountability for the error. I'm sorry. I'm learning. I'm trying to figure it out. Give me a chance. I'm gonna show you that I can do better once I know better. That's a different route mentally, physically, and it definitely helps you financially. That's the formal logic that we're not nourishing. We're not nourishing. And I realized that throughout all of my studies and my years of observing research, observing studies, observing people in their natural environments. So, as a psychologist, I've had the blessing to be able to see things from a different perspective, and I'm innately able to see the whole picture of things as opposed to just focusing in on, intricate details. I can see the intricate details. I can see the way it functions, and I can see the long-term effects. because I was raised in an environment where my elders were teaching me forecast, forecast. And that was really, really the heavy message in all the lessons. Forecast. Even when I was learning to read, they said read ahead of where you're speaking so that when you get to that part and you're forecasting from the part that you've read, you're forecasting what will come and you'll be able to read faster. A lot of people don't want to read because they never learned that. They don't understand that concept. But I've worked with, I was blessed to work with people who were on the spectrum. And I'm really happy to see, just a side note, I'm really happy to see that people who are on the spectrum, regardless of where they fall on the spectrum, are now being given opportunities to live their life to the fullest. They're actors and actresses, they're in sports, they're in all kinds of activities where they're not as limited as they were prior to the pandemic. I'll put it that way, because I'm trying to find a marker for it. But it's very difficult to find a marker for something that's been going on for generations. But back to the topic, it's difficult when we don't acknowledge our errors, because if we didn't acknowledge our errors, we would not open these opportunities up for people who are on the spectrum. We wouldn't open the opportunities up for people who have erred in ignorance because they weren't taught, or they just simply don't know for whatever reason, or they didn't have faith to believe the directions of the person who was instructing them. Now, have you ever had that situation where you was instructed by somebody that you couldn't trust what they were saying? I know I have. I have been in that situation more times than I like to admit. And oftentimes it was in a work environment and school environments, faith establishments, relationships of any sort. I don't care what kind of relationship, okay? Friendship, sexual ship, situationship, whatever you want to call it. There's been many times in all these gray hair years where I've been in situations where I didn't know if I could trust the person. So I had to follow along with caution. Have you ever had that problem? How much has it played and weighed on your mental health and the things that you do now? We may not acknowledge it because it's that piece of paper with all those eraser marks on it where you've written and written and rewritten on top of those erasers, and that almost hidden but still visible to the author's eye who knows the mistake is still there. It's time to change the piece of paper and start over. We have to change that piece of paper and start over by acknowledging, yeah, we erred. That was a mistake. Let's try something new. Let's try something different and see how that works. Let's try an all-inclusive mentality. I wrote about that in my academic writings. And once you purchase this book and you follow it to follow along to find my other academic writings, you'll see for a great length of time, I have been writing about being all inclusive. That message was not hitting home like it really needed to. So I kept at it and kept at it and kept praying, because we were continuing down that pattern where we kept erasing and erasing, and it wasn't getting us where we wanted to be, and it wasn't growing our wealth. It was just the same money changing hands as it was. It's like I loan you $5 and you loan me back that same $5 later. And it was that kind of back and forth instead of growth where money is now exchanging hands, and now it's new money, it's fresh money, it's different money, not the same money. So think of it like an investment. When you invest in a thing, whatever that thing may be, you're expecting to get back more than what you put in, or something different not the same thing. And for a long time, we weren't progressing. And a lot of times, instead of us progressing, we were actually declining in our ability to thrive and to progress, to move forward beyond the mistakes that we were making. And we couldn't identify why and what that was. But I kept writing about all inclusiveness. I kept writing about how, well, I'm a part of that community that you bad mouthing. So I can't go along with that, even if it is for an A. And I'm a scholar and a straight A student and blah, blah. I don't care. I can't do it. I can't go along with that mentality where you're bashing people and you're taking advantage of their mental health, their mental well-being, and you're depleting their ability to be mentally sound, mentally healthy. And they could not see how there were more financial deficits. They couldn't understand how too big to fail companies kept failing because they thought that even though they knew the system was broken, they kept thinking, well, it was broken when we kept perpetuating it. But it went against the formal logic, and the formal logic says that no matter how it looks like the wrong decisions are making progress, it is not. And that's why you had so many people who were thinking, well, it's my turn. It's my turn. And this is a too big to fail company. And this is going to be great because everybody's siding with me. Everybody's on my side. The public opinion is on my side and I can't lose. Then people didn't understand how it was that the facts are stubborn. And no matter how much you think that, oh, well, everybody's on your side, but if everybody is wrong and they're on your side, you're still wrong. And that was messing up the ability for us to thrive. And that was declining the global mental health. And as a result, a lot of people were feeling hopeless, hapless, and they were making decisions that were fatal, not just to them, but to the surrounding community. And that's why it's important for us to understand that it's okay to start over. There's a certain level of comfort in making the same errors and knowing that you're messing up and knowing you're not going to get anywhere. But we have to get out of that mentality and follow and nurture our formal logic. Now, in this book, I tell you what formal logic is and how you can nurture it and how you can prosper from it in application right now as you're reading it. I've seen some people say that they're reading it. As they're reading it, they're highlighting and they're trying to make sure they can come back to that part and they can, let it edify them again, because that's a perpetual situation that's happening right now in these times. And that's why my my academic writings are globally trending, because it's not about being an egghead, being a know-it-all, knowing everything. It's about practical application and the wisdom that I'm not make you, but compels you. It compels you. It doesn't force you. It doesn't motivate you. It compels the formal logic that's inside you, that's innately inside you, and it drives you. It pulls you towards doing that thing. Nurturing your formal logic also nurtures your ability to discern information. And in this book, I talk a great deal about information. Information is different. You have factual information. You have information that's people's opinion, information that's popular opinion, information that's trending, but there's no logic to it. And you have logical information. You have information that helps somebody else, but it's not helping you. You have all kinds of different things, but I'm showing you how and what information that can that's going to be more helpful to you individually. And that's why The book is called Information Asymmetry. Information Asymmetry, because we all have information that someone else doesn't have. We can all read the same book. We can all read the same articles. We're all going to take something different from it. And in my book, I tell you why that is. Because innate in all of us, we are uniquely different. And that's supposed to be, because God wants us to work together, not be individualized and only being selfish to one another. If I fall short somewhere, you may not fall short in that same area, but you fall short in an area where I'm extremely strong and I have an overflow. So I can help you like you can help me. But if we continue to be greedy and selfish to one another, we are not nurturing our formal logic. We're not helping our ability to discern how to thrive, how to build, how to grow. And then it starts to wear at our mental health and our wealth. We can't gain the way we know. We just have it down in our bones that I know I could be far more wealthier than this. I know I could be richer than this. I know that I can have a greater financial portfolio than what I have. And it's really bugging people. It's bugging them to the point where they're like, I don't know what to do. I give up. I'm just gonna, do this or that. And then when they do that, it's not going anywhere. It's not picking up the way it should. The momentum is slower than the prospectus has projected for it to be. And then they're like, well, I give up. Now you keep finding yourself in a cycle of giving up, of giving up. It's like constantly erasing on the same piece of paper, constantly erasing on the same piece of paper, making a bit of progress down the paper, and then continuing to erase. And all throughout the paper, you can see where you've erased and written over it, erased and written over, and now you're at the bottom of the paper, and you feeling hopeless because you look back at the paper and you see all of it's gibberish. None of it's logical. None of it makes sense. And it looked good at the time, but now it's like, man, I wasted all this time and I worked really hard, and I'm so frustrated because I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know where to turn, and I just give up. But I'm hoping that once you read this book, you will find a better way, an easier way. And in this book, it's in the book, Generational Wealth and Information Asymmetry in your success. Go to lulu.com and type in TINA space PHILLIPS and purchase that book. A lot of times we don't know that excelling in life is extremely easy, because a lot of times people make it seem so complicated, and they put these barriers in front of you, and you think that you have to jump through all of those loops and jump over all of those obstacles or climb every mountain, because that's what the person who succeeded before you did. And it goes against your formal logic that if that's what they did in order to make things better, then why do I have to climb that same mountain? Why is it not an easier path? And you see now how this is starting to play against your mental health, how this is really hurting you, because you're thinking logically, whereas the situation doesn't make sense. And that's why you see so many people trending, make it make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it's not going to make sense, because that is illogical. That is a stressful situation that you are going through, and and you're like, you're fighting yourself to tell yourself, this doesn't make sense. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. And then you feel like, well, if I don't do it, I won't get along with everybody. If I don't do it, then I won't progress because they say this is the way. And I see that that's the set orthodox But I can also see over here that if I was to do this, it would be easier. So why can't I just do it this way? And they tell you no. And then you say, well, look, you talking illogically, and I can't do it. I quit. I'm gonna go somewhere else and do something else. I'm not gonna do it. Or you do it and you don't reach the outcome that you were really promised. And then you really feel bad because now, just like that eraser with all that paper, on that writing on it, and you get to the bottom of it and you haven't prospered the way you think, and you look back on it and you say, up, wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it. So we have to forecast that. We have to learn from those mistakes. We have to first accept the accountability that we're not nourishing our formal logic the way we need to. And that's why there's an unrest. Then we have to address it by acknowledging that, yeah, there was a great deal of comfort in the known errors. And after that, we need to acknowledge that we got to start again. And we have to look at the bright side of it. You're not really starting again. You're starting with a clean slate. And on that clean slate, you're taking all the bad information, squashing it. But you're taking out of that bad information all the good, and you're applying it to this clean slate. This clean slate doesn't have to be a blank slate because you're not really starting over. You're taking all the bad things that was over here on this piece of paper that is showing all of your errors, all of your mistakes, making you feel terrible about knowing you erred, and it's still visible. And you take all the good off of it, and you then copy it on to this new paper. It's not starting over. It's taking the good and putting it to better use, improving it. And as you grow, you're probably going to make some mistakes on that blank slate, but it's okay because now you know the right process. You know that when you make a mistake on this blank slate, you're just going to take it over here with the bad on it. You're going to take out all the good, and you're going to start another blank slate. And you're going to think, well, I made some errors. I acknowledge those errors. I remove all the positive that I can from it, put it onto this new blank slate to start an improved process. Now, that kind of process is actually an improvement because it's no longer perpetuating all the ill and negative energy from erasing. And now you seeing all the errors, and it's not as bad as always having your nose rubbed into your error. It's a blank slate, and on it, it makes you look perfect until you make another mistake. And then what do? You just take it over, put it over here, extract all the good that you can from it, and discard it. All the bad stuff, all the stuff you don't work, all the errors, after you've acknowledged it, so you don't transfer that onto the blank slate. And then you put that blank slate together. And after a while, you will have compiled so many blank slates that's new and have all the positive progress on it. And your mental health is going to start improving. Your wealth will start increasing because now you have perpetuated a cycle that's more positive, that's building your mental health, that's building your acknowledgement, your self-acknowledgement. You've examined yourself. You build a routine of examining yourself and saying, hey, I made some mistakes. Let me start again. Now you're working overtime, but it's paying off. It's paying off because you started over on a blank slate with all the good, extracting all the bad. So now you have more positivity, and it feels like a greater accomplishment than having it seen that, oh man, I made a lot of mistakes and it's all right here and I can't get past it to see all the good because it's still there, visible to my eye, even if no one else can see it. Blank slate. Take out, I know it's going to take an extra time, but you'll be able to sleep. You'll be able to rest. You'll be able to focus on forward progressing instead of staying stagnant, feeling like you're progressing, but you're not progressing. Then you'll start to be able to focus more on nurturing your formal logic, nurturing your innate ability to discern what information is useful for you. Everything that everybody tells you is not necessarily helpful to you. Why is that? Because we can all read the same information. We can all encounter the same problems, but because we are uniquely different, and we can't help that, there's something different about it. So we can make the same decisions, but one of us can be less happier than the other one because that was not for you. That was for the person who you seem to have parallel lines with. A lot of times, these parallel lines seem like they're one when it is not. A lot of times, those parallel lines intersect. And at some point in time, it'll look like it's one, but it's really intersecting. And you have to make different decisions from the person who is parallel to your situation. The same decisions, the same problems, but different people, different mentalities, different paths. It's written in the Bible that is one body, but many parts to the body of God, of the I am, of the creator. And if that is so, and I'm sure it is, because it is proven time and time again, when you can have one person who is following in the spiritual way, seeking the I am in one general region or location, geographical location, and another one way overseas somewhere having the same journey, and they both come up with the same message in a different way, in different tongues, in different dialects. Same God, same spiritual journey, but because they are innately different people, it's different. It's those little intricacies that make it different. And that's why we understand that it is true, that it's one body, but many functional parts, and they're all doing individual things. That's what in that part of the Bible where it says, lean not to your own understanding. That's why we're not supposed to lean to our own understanding, because I can't get the same results you get, even if we make the same decisions, even if um, researchers have found, studies have shown that even identical twins can make they could be looking like the same person, same genes, same everything. They can even marry another identical set of twins, and they can all make the same decisions, but it'll be different outcomes. They'll feel differently about it. They'll think differently about it. They'll desire different things. And why is that? It is because our formal logic is different per person. That is why you are uniquely special. That's why if you're trying to follow the crowd, you at some point in time you feel like these parallel lines are one because you're trying to follow the crowd, and then the parallel lines begin to intersect and go in different directions because you are starting to identify you are separately, individually unique. And that uniqueness is something we all need. That's why it's important for us to have that all-inclusive mentality and practice, because we're growing from one another. That African saying, where I am because you are, that's where it's coming from. Because a long time ago, a lot of people in the spiritual way came to understand that, and they communicated that concept, that idea. And then because a lot of religious, political, mess, people started to create philosophy, because they didn't want to follow the orthodox faith of man, because they did not want to continue down that path. So they created this philosophy, whereas, okay, well, it's a philosophy, not a faith. And then people started to follow a a philosophical method, of ideology, a thought, a concept in the context. And then people started to think, man, you're taking this out of context, but it's the same content. So people started to mix and match and mix and match. And that's how we started to grow. That's how we started to improve our mental health overall. That's how we nurtured our discernment, our ability to discern things. And that's why innovative technology and improvements, that's why it was so plentiful then. That's why it's not so plentiful now, because we are more ignoring formal logic. We're ignoring mental health, and we didn't understand how that was affecting us as a generational wealth, because not all information is going to lead to generational wealth, but factual information, because facts are stubborn and they're not going anywhere. I don't care who agrees, who disagrees, and how long it takes everybody to realize it. It's not going anywhere. But it does, if you follow it, if you track it, it does, and it can lead to generational wealth. And it's like, oh, well, I guess then I have to go to an elite school and pay all this money and pay into this broken system and kiss everybody's butt on my way up. Nope. Nope, you don't. You don't. And I wrote it in my book. You got to go and find it. You got to get it. If it were so that you had to attend an elite school, let's say we all know how Oxford is the most elite school that you can ever attend. Let's say that. Even if you don't feel that way or whatever, let's just say that. If Oxford or all these elite schools were in fact the only way up, the only way to thrive and succeed in your endeavors to become intelligent or join Mensa. There's a lot of Mensa people who don't go to those schools. But anyway, let's say that was the way. Then why don't they have elementary schools? Why don't they have a pre-K? Because the elite education that you have is derived in this way. You must nurture your formal logic. You must hone in your ability to discern facts from just information. And in my book, I try to help you with that. In my academic writings, just research my name, Tina Phillips. Just research it and see what you find. If you can find my academic writings without having to purchase the book, if you're not going to purchase the book, try to find it without purchasing the book. But I can't mention it the way I can in this book due to legal reasons. So that is why I am saying, go get the book. Because I legally cannot say the names of these things, because I do not want to get in any legal trouble mentioning someone's name. And then you find out that, oh, wow, you find out more information than what I said. I don't like to throw shade, but I do present facts, and I like to speak in complete sentences. So if you ask me a question, I'm going to speak in a complete sentence. And if you think it's passive aggressive to drop names at that point, that's on you. I'm going to speak in complete sentences, because I'm not going to keep on looking like an idiot, not saying stuff because I'm trying to avoid articulating in a manner in which people can properly understand. But anyway, when we realize that we are not following that formal logic, we can feel some type of way about that. And we may not be able to identify that's why we're feeling some type of way. We may not be able to identify it because nobody really talks about it. Nobody talks about building your formal logic. Nobody talks about what's innate in us in order for us to be able to say, hey, I could do this on my own. Hey, I feel like I can accomplish this. We don't do that. We just look at people, know they're on a spectrum at some point on the spectrum, and we give up on them and we limit them. And we say, you can't do it. We say, it's going to take too much effort for you to do anything that's going to be productive. Now we are seeing that it doesn't take all that much. It don't matter where you fall on the spectrum. And if you ask my opinion, we all on that spectrum somewhere. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. But we include ourselves into the average. I'm just saying, it just seems more likely to me that that's a lot. We leaving money on the table. It just seems to me we leaving a lot of money on the table when we do that. And now we're starting to acknowledge that and correct it. Hi, Matthew. Thank you for joining. I'm almost out of time, but thank you for coming. I hope that if you had any questions that you would have asked it by now. If you have it, just drop it in the comments. Drop it in the comments wherever you see this video, and I will try my best to get back to you. Because I'm doing so much and it's taking so much energy and time out of me, I am not always readily available. But when I am available, I'm trying to support all of the people who are supporting us on this endeavor to live stream. So in between that, I'm going to get back to those comments. But thankfully, I guess I've answered the questions and I've addressed information in such a way that you don't have any questions. So that's great. And now with this book, hopefully you will be able to binge watch all of those episodes that I've posted and shared for free, and you'll be able to track it a little bit better, and you'll be able to understand why I challenged you to watch the videos more than once. I challenged you to watch them at least 3 times, each time with a different perspective, so you can get something different out of it each time you watch it. It's a mental thing. It's not to say anything about intellect. It's a mental thing. Sometimes we're in a bad mental space and we can't take in the information and let it edify us in the same way as we can when we're in a positive mental space. So the challenge for you to watch an episode more than one time is everything to do with your mental health and well-being and how you can gain financially from understanding the information in these free interactive videos. I'm not saying that, you can't get it the first time you watch it, but if you read, for example, you read a book and you're like, man, I read it once, but I'm reading it again and I'm getting something different. You watch a movie, you're like, man, I watched it once, but I'm getting something different now that I watched it. I watched this movie a million times. It's my favorite movie, but every time I watch it, it seems like I'm seeing something different. You laughing different. You're picking up some of the lines that they're talking about, and you're like, oh man, I didn't catch that. That was hilarious. That was clever. It's a different mentality. Yes, please like and share. Thank you, Eddie. Like, share, and subscribe. Wherever you see this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It's a lot of people out here that they're just giving up. And a lot of times they don't know who to turn to. They don't know where to turn. And we're people. We're people. We can't be there every time, all the time. These people need help in a way where they can start helping themselves before you can get to them, because you got to sleep. The Bible says that man will fail you. And we see this all the time. We see it all the time. We don't want to acknowledge it. We just apologize and we give excuses to the person who was dependent on us. And that excuse is, oh, well, I had to sleep. Oh, well, I had some business to take care of. Oh, well, this. Oh, well, that. It's always something. But the bottom line is you failed that person because you couldn't be there, because you're human. You're human. And they need to understand that you have to sleep sometime. You have other priorities sometime. You have other things you got to do. You got to be somewhere else sometimes. You can't always hold their hand, though you love them, you care for them, and you want them to be happy and thrive and prosper. But you can't be that pillar for them. You can't be their foundation. This can be their foundation. I wrote it. I'm the psychologist who wrote it. I am the psychologist who has helped people on the spectrum thrive independently. So if you think you can't read this book, think again. If you think you can't prosper from reading this book, if you think, oh, well, I don't even like reading, think again. Try it. Try that blank slate idea that I'm talking about. Try it. I'm in this book showing you a better understanding of formal logic. I'm in this book showing you why you could do exactly what I did. I attended an online school that was 100% online, and really come to find out it was an at-risk school. And yet my writings was blessed because I was a willing vessel. I was blessed to write in such a way that is globally trending and is making a positive difference in so many ways. And guess what? I didn't pay Oxford prices to make that difference. I didn't pay Oxford prices to have that door or opportunity open to me. I can show you in this book. I can help you understand it better than I can in the hour that I spend volunteering on this show. I'm just saying, I try to make things free, but I can't keep repeating the same things. I got to move on from these topics and show you different things. But in this book, I talk very fundamentally about formal logic. Now, that blank slate mentality that I spoke about tonight, think about it. Try to implement it. Yeah, you may have 4 or 5 jobs. Yeah, you may be juggling a whole lot and you don't have no room for this. But if you do it, watch how you prosper. Watch how your mental health improves. Watch how you financially prosper because you're not throwing money at problems that you were making because you went in this perpetual dark cycle. I know we're not making that kind of connections. We're not making the correlation that that's what's happening. Don't worry. It's in this book now. It's in this book. And I don't have to keep repeating it to you. Go to lulu.com. Purchase this book. TinaPhillips in the search engine. Purchase the book. Invest in you. It's not a deep investment. It's just buy the book, spend just a little time reading that tiny little book, and see how powerful it is. See how power packed it is. See how factual all that information is, and see how it helps you. Then tell somebody. Tell somebody and tell them come back and binge watch these episodes and see if it hit different. See if it makes more sense, because sometimes there's certain things that I can say and I can flesh it out for you in these episodes. Sometimes I can only make mention of it. And because I'm not that great at this, when somebody asks a question, I go down a rabbit hole sometimes. But that hasn't been happening lately. So I've been able to be a little bit more consistent with answering and staying focused on the message. But remember, I'm only human. I make mistakes. But I read that book several times before publishing it. I read my academic writing several times, and I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I did nothing. I did exactly what I had to do so that I can get the right messages out there. But it's up to you. I can lead you to the water. I can tell you how vital it is to your life and your ability to thrive. I can show you how it's hurting you to have the lack. But what I can't do is convince you to invest in yourself, to take heed to the wisdom that's being given to you, pushed to you, pleaded to you for you to get it, grasp it, take it, benefit from it. You're worth it. And you got to stop leaning on other people to be that kind of foundation for you, as opposed to being a companion, an improvement to what you have already. You can do this. You can be better all by yourself. Now, that's been my time. See you next episode. And remember, mental health is physical wealth. Mental health is physical wealth.